The most devastating weapon used against the Kremlin in 2026 wasn't a missile. It wasn't a tank. It was a microscopic slice of silicon, no larger than a fingernail, manufactured in a clean room in Tokyo. For decades, the world operated under the illusion that Russia was a self-sufficient military superpower. But as the sun rose over the Sea of Japan in April 2026, that illusion finally shattered. While the headlines were focused on the frontlines in Ukraine, a silent execution was taking place in the boardrooms of Tokyo and the shipping ports of Osaka. Japan, the silent giant of high-tech manufacturing, has officially dropped the Silicon Guillotine. By imposing an absolute, zero-tolerance embargo on the specialized machinery and chemicals required to produce microchips, Japan hasn't just sanctioned Russia, it has effectively lobotomized its entire military-industrial complex. Without Japanese photoresists, without Tokyo Electron's lithography equipment, and without the precision sensors that only Japan can produce, the Russian war machine is no longer a 21st-century threat. It is a massive, rusting relic of the Soviet past, running on borrowed time and scavenged parts from household appliances. Today, we are going inside the most sophisticated technological blockade in human history. We will reveal why the Kremlin's desperate attempt to import substitute has failed, and how a secret deal between Tokyo and Kiev has created a high-tech shield that Vladimir Putin cannot bypass, no matter how much oil he sells. The age of the Russian smart weapon is over. The guillotine has fallen. To understand the scale of this disaster for Moscow, you have to understand the math of modern warfare. A single Kh-101 cruise missile, the backbone of Russia's long-range strikes, requires over 300 individual microelectronic components. In the past, Russia managed to bypass sanctions using a complex web of shell companies in Central Asia and the Middle East. But in early 2026, Japan changed the game. They didn't just ban the chips, they banned the machines that make the chips. Japan controls nearly 30% of the world's semiconductor equipment market. More importantly, they control 90% of the global supply of specialized fluorinated polyamides and photoresists, the essential chemicals without which a microchip factory is nothing more than an empty warehouse. When Tokyo pulled the plug, Russia's last remaining advanced fabrication plants, like Micron, hit a brick wall. Intelligence reports suggest that as of April 2026, the failure rate of Russian-made military circuits has soared to 85%. Imagine a general ordering a missile strike, knowing there is an 85% chance the brain of that missile will fry before it even leaves the launcher. This isn't just a shortage, it's a structural collapse. The Kremlin thought they could rely on China, but even Beijing is hesitant. Chinese tech giants rely on Japanese patents and Western markets. They aren't willing to commit economic suicide to save Putin's failing factories. Russia is now technologically isolated, trapped in a digital dark age while the rest of the world moves toward 2-nanometer architecture. But the Silicon Guillotine has a second blade, the Japanese shield. While Russia is being stripped of its high-tech future, Ukraine is being flooded with it. In a historic move, the Japanese government has bypassed its traditional pacifist constraints to provide Kiev with what experts call non-lethal dominance. This includes the latest AI-driven sensor arrays from companies like Terra Drone and Mitsubishi Electric. These systems don't fire bullets. Instead, they provide a level of sky clarity that makes Russian stealth efforts look amateurish. Using Japanese thermal imaging and ultra-high-frequency radar, Ukrainian forces can now track Russian drones not just by their heat signature, but by the minute vibrations of their engines, vibrations that Japanese AI has catalogued and indexed. The irony is bitter for the Kremlin. The very same Japanese precision components that Russia used to buy for its T-90 tanks are now being used to destroy them. Furthermore, Tokyo has integrated Ukraine into its Pacific data link. This allows Ukrainian operators to use Japanese satellite imagery with a resolution so high, they can identify the serial numbers on Russian supply trucks from space. For Putin, the war is no longer a game of chess, it's a game where his opponent can see through the board, while he is playing in a dark room with a broken flashlight. The reaction from Moscow has been a mix of denial and fury. In a televised address on April 12, 2026, Russian officials claimed they would build their own lithography machines within months. Independent experts laughed. Building a high-end lithography machine is more complex than building a nuclear reactor. It requires a supply chain of over 100,000 precision parts, many of which are only made in Japan or the Netherlands. Behind the scenes, the desperation is visible. Russian agents are reportedly scouring the black markets of Southeast Asia, offering 5 times the market price for used Japanese industrial robots. They are failing. Japan's new end-use verification system uses blockchain technology to track every single piece of high-tech equipment from the factory floor to the final customer. If a machine intended for a factory in Vietnam ends up in Vladivostok, the software locks the machine remotely, turning a $1 million robot into a paperweight. The Kremlin is learning the hard way. You cannot win a war of the future with the tools of the past. By alienating Tokyo, Putin hasn't just lost a trade partner. He has lost the 21st century. As the Russian economy pivots back to heavy industry and manual labor, the gap between Moscow and the rest of the civilized world is becoming a canyon that no amount of propaganda can bridge. As we stand in April 2026, the geopolitical map looks fundamentally different. Japan, long considered a sleeping giant, has proven that in the modern age, economic and technological power is more decisive than raw numbers of artillery shells. The Silicon Guillotine is a warning to every nation that thinks it can challenge the global order while remaining dependent on its technology. You cannot declare war on the system that provides the brain for your weapons. For Russia, the window is closing. As their stockpiles of pre-war chips dwindle, the smart in their smart bombs will disappear. They will be forced to fight a 1940s war against a 2026 adversary. And we all know how that ends. The Japanese shield is up. The guillotine has fallen. And for the Kremlin, there is no going back. Thank you for watching TECHINT. We are tracking this technological shift in real time. If you want to understand the invisible forces shaping our future, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon. The war for the future is being fought in the shadows of the supply chain, and we are here to shed light on it. See you in the next deep dive.